I used to think the problem was that I didn't declutter enough. Turns out that wasn't true at all. The real problem was that I was decluttering the wrong things, or sometimes not even realizing what was actually causing the mess. This video isn't about throwing everything away or chasing a perfect home. It's about noticing the quiet clutter, the things that don't look messy, but slowly drain your space and your energy. Like storage items that only exist to hold more stuff, or pantry shelves full of food you feel guilty for not using. One simple shift that changed everything for me was this. I started setting limits. One suitcase per purpose. One drawer that actually closes. One clear answer to, would I buy this again today? I didn't learn this from a book. I learned it by trying, failing, adjusting, and feeling the difference in my own home. So if your house looks fine but still feels heavy, let me show you where that feeling might be coming from. Let's start with the first group. Now we're starting with storage items. I honestly thought my house was already pretty organized. Then one day I opened the storage area and realized most of what I had wasn't stuff I used, but stuff meant to hold other stuff. That was my wake-up call. I had suitcases that no longer meet airline size rules. I had old travel bags with stuck wheels that I kept just in case. I had reusable shopping bags multiplying in every corner under the sink in the car stuffed inside other bags. On top of that, there were empty plastic bins and canvas tote bags I'd gotten as gifts, all waiting for some imaginary future purpose. What I realized is this extra storage items are a very sneaky form of clutter. They don't look messy, but they quietly invite more things into your home. So here's what I actually did. I stopped thinking in categories and started thinking in limits. I decided I only need one large suitcase, one carry-on, and one or two travel bags, no more. If a suitcase can't roll smoothly or doesn't fit current regulations, it goes. For reusable shopping bags, I counted how many I realistically use in 1 week. That number was 10. I kept those, washed them, and donated the rest. Same with tote bags. If I don't naturally reach for it, I let it go. Decluttering this category didn't just free up space. It made my home feel calmer because I removed the containers that were encouraging excess. If this shift already feels helpful, don't miss tomorrow's video. I'll be sharing a calm, practical reset for your kitchen, how to clean, clear, and organize your pantry without stress. It's simple, realistic, and honestly something most of us really need. Once I cleared the things that were holding clutter, I started noticing something else. My kitchen didn't feel messy, but it felt heavy. And that led me straight to food and drinks. Next, let's talk about food and drinks. I realized something was off when opening my kitchen cabinets started to feel heavy. Not because I didn't have enough, but because I had too many things I felt obligated to use even though I didn't want them anymore. Over the years, my kitchen quietly filled up with leftovers from old versions of my life. Bottles of wine bought for parties that never happened. Liquor gifted with good intentions, but never touched because I don't even like the taste. Half-opened bottles that had been sitting there so long, I couldn't remember when they were last used. Every time I saw them, I felt a small wave of guilt instead of excitement. Then there were the canned foods I bought just in case. They sat neatly on the shelf untouched while I kept cooking the same simple meals I always do. I had spices I bought for one recipe, tried once, and never reached for again. And don't get me started on supplements, things I bought because someone recommended them, or because they were trending, not because I truly needed them. What finally helped me was asking one very honest question. If this disappeared today, would I actually go out and buy it again? For most items, the answer was no. That made my decision much easier. For canned food that was still good, I donated it right away. Keeping it wasn't saving anything. It was just turning my cabinet into a place of silent guilt. As for alcohol, I let go of many bottles I'd been saving for a special occasion. The truth is, those occasions rarely come. And even if they do, I don't want my kitchen weighed down by things I'm waiting to feel worthy enough to use. Decluttering this category didn't just clear shelves, it cleared mental space. Going into 2026, I want my kitchen to support how I actually live, not how I once imagined I might. As I spent more time in my kitchen and living spaces, I realized clutter wasn't the only issue. Some of the things I was using every day were affecting how I felt physically. Now we're moving into toxic household items. For a long time, I loved having a home that always smelled good. Candles lit, plug-ins, running air freshener in every bathroom. It felt clean and cozy, at least on the surface. But slowly, I started noticing something else. Headaches, a tight chest, and this low-level discomfort I couldn't quite explain. When I really paid attention, I realized the scent was coming at a cost. I had wax melts and plug-ins running all day. I burned scented candles almost every evening, not for a special moment, but out of habit. I was also using plastic utensils and hot pans without thinking twice, reheating food in old plastic containers that were scratched and cloudy. On top of that, I had strong spray cleaners and chemical-soaked wipes that promised freshness but left the air feeling heavy. Instead of throwing everything out at once, I slowed down. I started with the things I used daily: plug-ins, chemical wipes, plastic spatulas. Those went first. Items I used less often stayed for a bit longer until I felt ready to let them go too. This made the process feel manageable, not extreme. I also had to shift my mindset. I stopped trying to make my house smell like something and focused on letting it smell like nothing. Fresh air, open windows, regular cleaning, and fewer chemicals made a bigger difference than any spray ever did. After dealing with the air and surfaces in my home, it felt natural to move into the space that's most personal, everything I use on my body every single day. This next part is personal care items. This category gave me the fastest sense of relief, probably because everything here touches me. My body, my face, my daily routines. When these things are cluttered, I feel it immediately. Over time, I had collected half-used skincare bottles that I stopped loving but felt bad throwing away. I had makeup that was clearly expired yet still sitting in drawers because it looked fine. There were perfumes I bought in a different phase of my life, scents that no longer felt like me but stayed because they were expensive. I even had an old bathrobe hanging on the hook, worn thin and stiff, while newer ones kept piling up behind it. Then there were the little things. Broken hair clips, bent combs, styling tools I hadn't plugged in for years. Chipped glasses I avoided using but somehow never let go of. Face towels that had lost their softness and absorbed more smell than water. None of these were big on their own, but together they quietly lowered the quality of my everyday life. What helped me was setting one clear rule when in use, one backup. If I already had a moisturizer open, I didn't need 3 more waiting their turn. Anything beyond that was creating pressure, not convenience. When I found cracked, chipped, or worn items, I stopped hesitating. Saving a few dollars was not worth risking my safety or comfort. I also reminded myself that decluttering this category isn't about being wasteful, it's about being respectful. Respectful of my time, my body, and my mental space. Every time I clear out these items, it feels less like cleaning and more like care. Once my personal spaces felt lighter, I started noticing the tiny things that kept interrupting my day. The small broken items I kept putting off dealing with. Now let's talk about small broken items. Inside were all the usual suspects: pens that no longer wrote, scissors that barely cut paper, random charging cables with no owner, and earbuds that only worked in one ear. There were old batteries I kept meaning to test, remotes I didn't recognize, and a pile of things I'd tossed in thinking I'll deal with this later. Later never came. The problem wasn't the drawer itself, it was the mental load. Every broken or unfinished item carried a tiny decision with it. Fix this, test that, figure it out someday. And all of those tiny decisions added up to daily frustration, especially when I was already tired and just needed something to work. So I changed how I approached it. Instead of clearing one item at a time, I emptied the entire drawer in one go. Everything came out. Then I made one firm rule: if it didn't work right now, it didn't stay. No more "I'll fix it later." If something needed effort before it could be useful, it was already costing me more than it was worth. Once I decided what to keep, I also set a physical limit. Everything had to fit comfortably back into one drawer, no stuffing, no piling. That boundary made future decisions easier because there was no room for clutter to quietly creep back in. Decluttering this category didn't just make my drawer usable again, it made my days smoother. Fewer small frustrations, fewer decisions. With the everyday clutter under control, I finally had the mental space to look at something I'd ignored for years. The things I see but don't really see anymore. Next, we're getting into seasonal decorations. I realized I had a problem when I noticed I was no longer really seeing my decor. Some things had been hanging or sitting in the same spot for so long that they had become invisible, not loved, just familiar. I collected extra vases from flower deliveries, holidays, and thrift store finds. One bouquet at a time, yet somehow 5 or 6 vases waiting in cabinets. I had holiday decorations I hadn't pulled out in years pushed deeper and deeper to the bottom of storage bins. If I'm honest, I already knew I wasn't going to use them again, but I kept them because they had always been part of my home. The same thing happened with artwork. I had a few pieces I chose decades ago when my taste and my life were very different. They weren't bad, but they didn't reflect who I am now. I also noticed empty picture frames sitting around just in case chipped decorative items I was careful not to touch, and stacks of decorative kitchen towels that made the space feel busier than welcoming. What helped me was asking one simple question. Do I enjoy looking at this every single day? If the answer was no, I let it go. Not because it was broken or ugly, but because it no longer belonged in my daily visual space. For seasonal decor, I gave myself a clear rule: if I haven't used it in 5 years, I don't need to keep storing it. Someone else can enjoy it now instead of it waiting in a box. The hardest part was learning to leave space empty. At first, bare shelves felt unfinished, but then I realized how calm my home felt without constant visual noise. After clearing visual clutter, I turned my attention to comfort, because what touches your body every day quietly shapes how you feel. Now we're moving into decluttering fabrics. For a long time I told myself, it's just for wearing at home, it doesn't matter. But over time I realized it mattered more than almost anything else. These are the things that touch my body every single day, and they quietly shape how I feel from the moment I wake up. I had bath towels that looked fine until they got wet, and then the mildew smell appeared. Sheets with small tears that I kept ignoring because replacing them felt unnecessary. Old pillows that had lost their shape but stayed out of habit. Socks with holes that made me slightly uncomfortable all day, and underwear that should have been replaced years ago. None of these items felt dramatic on their own, but together they lowered the quality of my everyday life. I also noticed how many clothes I was holding on to that didn't match my current lifestyle. Outfits for situations I'm no longer in. Pieces that fit a version of me from years ago, not the woman I am now. And then there were the at-home clothes things I wore only because they were there, not because they were comfortable or made me feel good. What shifted everything for me was one simple guideline. Anything that touches my body daily needs to feel good, not perfect, just comfortable, clean, and supportive. If something smelled scratched, sagged, or annoyed me even a little, it didn't deserve a place in my drawer. I stopped decluttering based on guilt and started decluttering based on honesty. I let go of items that belonged to my past routines and kept only what supports my life now. The result was unexpected. I slept better. I moved through my day more calmly. My home felt quieter. This next section is trendy appliances. Some of the hardest things for me to declutter weren't emotional keepsakes, they were appliances. Not because I loved them, but because I kept thinking I used this so much back then. I collected kitchen gadgets with good intentions. A bread maker I once used weekly. An ice cream machine I was convinced would become part of our routine. For a while, some of them really did get used. But life changed. My schedule changed. And slowly these appliances moved from the counter to the cabinet to the back of a shelf where they stayed untouched for years. I also noticed cookware that technically worked but made cooking harder. Pans that were difficult to clean, lids that never quite fit tools I avoided using because they felt more annoying than helpful. Add to that a few trend-based gadgets I bought out of curiosity, broken lamps I kept meaning to fix, and random loose accessories that no longer matched anything. And suddenly my cabinets felt crowded and heavy. What finally helped me move forward was accepting one simple truth. My life is different now. Keeping something because it once fit my routine doesn't mean it fits my life today. That realization lifted a lot of guilt. Instead of waiting for things to break or become unusable, I chose to let them go while they could still be useful to someone else. Giving an appliance away felt far better than watching it slowly collect dust and lose value. Going into 2026, I want my kitchen and home to support how I actually live, not how I used to. Fewer appliances, fewer obstacles, and more space to breathe. That alone made decluttering this category worth. And finally, we're ending with bad containers. I didn't think much about storage boxes until the day I opened an old shoebox full of documents and realized everything inside was moldy. That was the moment it clicked. The way we store things matters just as much as what we store. For years, I had been using whatever was available: shoeboxes, old cardboard boxes, stacks of plastic bags folded inside each other. I told myself it was temporary. But temporary has a way of becoming permanent. Some of those boxes were soft bent or breaking down. A plastic shelf in storage had warped over time. A couple of bins smelled damp even though I couldn't remember the last time I opened them. What I noticed was this bad storage discourages use. When a box looks flimsy, dirty, or hard to open, I avoid it. And when I avoid it, whatever's inside slowly turns into forgotten clutter. Those boxes weren't protecting my things, they were quietly wasting space and attention. So instead of reorganizing everything, I did something simpler. I removed the containers first. I threw away 5 weak temporary boxes and replaced them with just 1 or 2 sturdy ones. At the same time, I decluttered what was inside. I didn't move things from one bad box to another. If something didn't deserve a better container, it probably didn't need to stay at all. I also stopped saving plastic bags just in case. I kept a small, realistic amount and recycled the rest. From storage items to food fabrics and those fix-later things, each category showed how clutter often hides in plain sight. I know decluttering isn't easy. It's tiring, emotional, and sometimes overwhelming, but you're not doing it alone. If you've ever felt stuck, guilty, or frustrated while trying to keep your home in order, I see you. This work takes time, and that's okay. If you're ready for the next step, I have a separate video you should watch right after this, where I walk you through a calm, practical kitchen reset, focusing on cleaning, clearing, and organizing the pantry in a way that actually feels manageable. Don't miss it. It's packed with ideas that genuinely make everyday life easier. And if this video helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. You deserve a home and a life that feels lighter, calmer, and more enjoyable. Share this with someone who might need it too.